And now, with an owl yarn about St. Patrick's Day, I bring you the original leprechaun, Christy Bannon.
God, I might try and get a little old tune over this show. I haven't seen one of these since Brother Nolan was teaching us about in the school there, no. I tell you, there could be a snake or something lodging there belonging to Paddy's Day. Here we go again. Big God, I didn't forget after all them years. Well, boys and girls, now wait till I tell you this. Not many people remember it now, but it used to be a well-known fact that the first ever St. Patrick's Day parade was in Portlaoise. Oh, by God, yes. You see, way back then, centuries ago, when God himself was a chap, sure, wasn't St. Patrick himself a regular visitor to town here, yeah. You see, what did St. Patrick say as he drove the snakes out of Ireland? He said, hey, will you keep it down there at the back? They'll get worse. Anyway, so on this particular morning, he drove the snakes out of well, he was doing a bit of snake wrangling, really, out around Rathnamanna and cleaning all the planes of varmints out around the Rathnamanna kids' place. So, after himself and the kid had no sup of tea after it, he took off, driving all the snakes abroad up front of him, out by Strabo and Knocknagrow and up onto the Ridge Road, you see. Now, there wasn't so much of a road there at the time, as it was only an old worn track that was well used, you see. Now, plenty of people used it now, and it used to go all the way from Ginny up near Clonaslee, right the way on out past Timahoe and everything, yeah, up the far side there. And, it even used to be used by St. Makua himself from the Tower, yes. He used to come in from Timahoe on a high Nelly to get a few messages in Liam Ryan's, Ramsbottoms, and he'd go back out along it again. Oh yeah, all the saints used to use it. In fact, I think it was St. Bridget or St. Columkill had shared it in their WhatsApp group that there was a grand old track they could cycle or walk along out around here. Now, but anyway, you see, after St. Makua and all that was sorted, the Bowl Patrick got as far as the Ridge Road there. And he said, Jesus, now, he says, I could turn off right and head on out towards Mount Mellick. And then he was thinking, if he had a boat, he could have got all the snakes into the boat and horsed it down into the river, a 2-mile bridge, and sailed them on out the Triogue into Mount Mellick and down then into the Barrow and on to Waterford. And well, St. Patrick, he was a martyr to his belly, big jeepers. There was nothing he loved more than a fresh blah. Oh, yes, I'm telling you. The thoughts of a salt and vinegar tato blah, or better still, a sausage and brown sauce blah, would have the saint dribbling all over himself. Oh, big jeepers. So, he thought then, I have no boat, but Waterford sounds good. So what could he do? So I could tip on into town and see if he could get a boat. So he headed back in along the Ridge and all the way out towards Ballytegan, in the Ridge Road. And who did he bump into? Only a young Dick Sides. That's right. And he says to Dick, how are you, young fella? He says, would you know anywhere where I could get a boat and trying to load all these snakes into it? And Dick was there thinking, he was looking at this fellow with a big herd of snakes in front of him and a big stick. And he said, a boat. Says Dick, I know where you get a boat. I know, the boys have a boat there called the Portlaoise Queen. He says, yeah. Jazz Riley has the oars for it above in the prison. And Sonny Keogh has the keys of the lock for the shed where the boat is. He says, well, look at, would you give us a hand going up to get that? And sure, Dick says, no bother, no better man, he says. So they're walking up along the road anyway, and Patrick leans over to Dick and he says, young fella, is there anywhere where a saint could get an old sandwich or a bite to eat or a bun or something? By God, Dick have him right. He says, I know the very man that'll sort you. He says, we'll bring you down there to the Bun Dun. Now, they arrived in there into Church Street, or Church Avenue, and got in there to the bun. And the bun fed them, their bellies were stuffed with lovely fresh buns, only out of the oven, lovely and crispy outside. And then they were filled with the finest of ham that should have been filling all the Duns' bellies for their dinner. But no, they didn't. And anyway, then he got out with a big barrel and he had a whole load of breadcrumbs. He tossed it all out around the back of it there. And the snakes ate all of the breadcrumbs and a few of the old cream buns from the day before that nobody bought. So, after they were all getting fed, they said their goodbyes. And Dick went off up the road. Well, didn't St. Patrick then head up the road, out through the top square, up by Bridge Street and up as far as the jail. Took to bang on the door of the main gate, real loud, you see. Saints would have an old big stick with him, or a crozier in front of him. And by God, didn't their man look like a big knight marching in front and going up to the gates of a castle. And there's a big rap, rap, rap on the gate. And then the little hatch opened up. And a set of eyes peered out when their mop was making all the noise. And wasn't it only the rake MacDonald inside the gate? He says, what's going on here, he says. The guy says, how are you getting on? He says, listen, I have a whole herd of varmints here, snakes. I'm after rounding up at the kids' place, he says. And I'm looking to talk to Jazz Riley or Sonny Keogh. Are they working? He says, because they are, he says. He says, right, well, what can we do? He says, listen, what are you looking for them? He says, well, I'm looking to get a loan of the Portlaoise Queen, that old boat that they have, you know it, he says. And sure, Jazz has the oars. All right, says. And what do you want Sonny for? Sure, Sonny has the keys. How are we going to open the shed to get it out? He says, right, I'll have it sorted. They'll meet you out in the back at Onions Field there in half an hour. No bother, he says, anyway. Shuts under the hatch, and Patrick saunters off then with the snakes. But in the meantime, the word after getting around in the jail. And as it always does, it got up the stairs in the castle and up to the governor. By Japers, the governor here, and he wanted to know what was going on. And he heard anyway that St. Patrick himself was after being at the gate. And he got all vexed. Then he says, do you know what? And he wrote out a harsh sheet demanding to know why the rake hadn't told him that St. Patrick was at the gate. The rake didn't know who it was at all anyway. And then he put out a call then to one of the clerks. Get all the real handsome officers in here, he says, and get them to bring their tunics and their good shoes and have them polished. We're going to be marching, he says. Well, while that was going on, word started to filter down the town because Scommel Scully and the skipper were on their way down and after getting their dinner, you see, and they put the word out around. They were after meeting Noel O'Brien in the top square earlier on. He says to him, listen, you know your man St. Patrick's around. You'll never guess what the governor's doing. He's getting a whole of the boys ready and polishing shoes like mirrors up there they are. And they're going to march all the way down the town with the saint and all the snakes. Because says Noel O'Brien, but Jenny, I might see if the accordion band will go as well. Well, little did Noel know. But when St. Patrick was above at the jail banging the gate, wasn't he down in Clonminham, after getting Rinty and Paddy Connell there, Slim, to round up the boys in the band, and it says, listen, we'll play a few tunes and we'll march them out of town as well. Well, all that was going on. And Rinty and the boys, they collected up Malcolm Smith and Pat Redden and a whole shower of them, Jeff Smith too, and John O'Mahony, you know, they had them all there rounded up ready to play their finest tunes with the hats lovely and straight and all ready. And in the meantime anyway, didn't the governor get all the boys out there marching them down? So St. Patrick met Jazz and Sonny up at Onions Field, and they're after pulling out this boat on a little sort of a small trailer on it. And so they took off, pushing it up the town for him. So they went down the Burris Road there, the hill, and then didn't they go up as far as Tom Brown's shop, and Tom gave them a wave and all the rest of it, and out they went down Bridge Street anyway, with Patrick and the snake following behind them. But there was crowds everywhere, lining both sides of the street. Sure, word was after getting out that there was something going on, and everybody was coming down to see what all the noise was all about. Well, anyway, there it was. You had Jazz Riley and Sonny Keogh pointing up the road with the Portlaoise Queen and the oars pointing up in it, covered in shamrocks, in a salute to what was going on. Behind them was Patrick himself, dressed beautifully, wearing the vestments that the Monsignor was after giving to Madness Mar. Oh, they looked lovely, and he had them for the occasion that day. And the big herd of snakes he was after rounding up out around in Rathmana, with the Rathmana Kids Ranch, blessing everyone, all and sundry, left and right, because the whole town was after coming out to see him. The Rathmana Kid himself was there, wearing his little black beret and shooting fingers to all that was there. All the boys and girls were loving it. And then you had behind them the guard of honour from the jail. The finest of lads was there. They had the rake, the scommel, skipper, the lemon. Gandhi was there in his sandals. The snout was there. The hassle paddy was there. The half door even there. And up above there, they were all dressed out in their finest of tunics with these white belts and white gloves parading up the town. And standing in front of them all was big Timmy Brown from Kerry, holding the tricolour, telling everyone it was the Kerry flag first. Oh, yeah. And there at the front of the band was the proud Dick Sides, carrying that big sticky, just swinging around when he's marching. There he was, leading them. He'd led them all the way down from Onions Field, all the way down through Bridge Street, up through the main street, past the courthouse, crowds cheering left and right, till they got up there to the Hub Square, where there was going to be a viewing stand. They were after borrowing a big pony and trap off Mrs. O'Brien, you see. You know, she'd have it for the newspaper. And you see, engines weren't invented at that stage, so she had to use an ass and cart or something. No buses. And up on top of the viewing stand, you had a whole load of the dignitaries from town. Yes, oh my God. The governor was there with a big shirt and tie on him. Yes, you had the Hesh McCormick, Henry Bannon, Bunny Carroll, the Bun Dunn himself was there, Tom Keenan, Jerry Lodge, and a few local political heavyweights from the town commission. And as the ensemble gathered there in the top square, someone found a microphone. Now, I don't know how it worked, they hadn't even invented electricity at the time, but however. And the saint himself was called up to give a few words of blessing to all that gathered there. And then, from the corner, out of the door of the square bar, didn't Jim Fitzpatrick appear, carrying in front of him this glorious chalice-shaped glass, inside it a pint of the creamiest stout that you could ever get. This gorgeous pint of Guinness. And he walked over to the front of the pony and trap, and he handed it up to the patron saint. And all the crowd there gathered, and it cheered wild with delight. When suddenly, didn't the Hesh McCormick grab the microphone, and he says, "From now on, this day forward will always be known as St. Patrick's Day." And the crowd cheered with delight. And furthermore, he says, "From now on, there will always be a parade on this day in honour of our patron saint." And the crowd went wild with delight. And then he says, "Give me 3 cheers for St. Patrick." And they all went wild. And 3 cheers for St. Patrick's Day's parade. And they all roared. But the biggest cheer of all came when he shouted, "Come on to town." And they all went wild with delight. Well, that was the facts as I knew them. Sure, you never know. Bannock T na féle Pádraig, Orv Goléir. Slán.